Hello there and welcome to Core Finance. I'm joined by Alessio Rastani from leadingtrader.com. How are you today, Alessio?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, given your accent, you should know all about Trump Jr.
Trump
What's
Jr.
What's he doing?
Wow. Well, from what I've heard, that Trump Sr. is denying any knowledge of Trump Jr.'s involvement with the lawyer regarding, essentially they're trying to establish some connection between the Trump, the administration, the Trump and Russia, obviously. And I'll be honest with you on this. And I have folks and friends in America, and most of them are completely divided on this point. If you're, if you're a Democrat or if you're against Trump, you're going to obviously be interested in any kind of news that's against Trump or any connection with Trump. You're going to be looking for that. But of course, if you're a Trump supporter, you're going to be of the opinion that the whole thing is a sham. It's all a conspiracy theory to try to get Trump out of power. It depends on which side of the camp you are. I think I have an idea of which side of the camp you probably are.
Support the president. He's a good man. The other point for me, actually, I support the man as well because obviously it was very amusing, but also the election was the election's over. It's done. Just forget it. But just move on and just let's get on with the job.
I agree. To some extent, I agree with that. I don't know what they're trying to really achieve with all this investigation. Because at the end of the day, his supporters, Trump supporters, are still going to support him no matter what. There was a poll recently that said that 70% of people who voted for Trump, they do believe that he should be more careful about how he says things, especially on Twitter. So there is some backlash about the way he has been acting on Twitter, probably justifiably.
Okay, well, let's go on to the headline of the day. Tesco and Booker, the Competition and Markets Authority, is going to be conducting an in-depth probe, which probably means it'll go on for a long time and cost a lot of money, after concerns regarding the £3.7 billion mooted takeover. Presumably those concerns come from some of Tesco's competitors, like Sainsbury's,
right?
As well. My view is that the CMA should stop interfering and let Tesco get on with its deal. Speaking
of Tesco's, I actually, in a different segment today, I'm going to talk about retail sector or stocks, because in America, certainly, a lot of the retail sector has been plummeting. I don't know if you guys, your viewers might have heard that Abercrombie & Fitch, which I don't really shop there, I don't even really know what kind of clothes they have, but apparently their stocks massively dropped because the investors are seeing that they're not catching up with the new economy, the technology, people buying online. So I'd be surprised to see, I'd be interested to see if Tesco's and Sainsbury's, are they going to be also affected by this online movement? So
hopefully they will. if you're an Amazon fan. Next up, we've got the FTSE stock to watch. Burberry boosted the shares with one of the biggest rises of the day, helped by sales in China, and obviously the company shaking off some of the issues over executive pay, or alleged excessive executive pay. I think somebody managed to trouser £5 million for doing, I'm not quite sure whether it was £5 million worth of work, but definitely recovery there at Burberry. On the AIM market, we've got another retail phenomenon here, which is Boohoo.com. Apparently started off as a market stall in Manchester and is now worth £2.6 billion. Recently, the CEO managed to sell some shares and pocketed £25 million. Stock is on a PE of 100.
PE of 100?
Yeah, just the 100 there, and obviously there's no concern at all that Amazon may be able to or might be competition going forward at this stage. So next up, we've got the pound steadying a bit. Obviously weakened a lot on the Bank of England member, not keeping us in the dark about how he would vote.
Yeah, I actually, we were long on the pound about a couple of weeks ago, and I told all my subscribers to sell pound, or essentially take their profits at 1.3. And I'm glad we did that because, pound dollar hit resistance, 1.3. It's come back now to the 55 exponential moving average on a daily time frame, if you're following that. So I think it's come back down to support, 128.5. That's the 50 or 55 EMA. And I actually still remain bullish. I mean, I disagree with one of your speakers saying that he's bearish on the pound. I don't accept that. I still think we got one more wave for people who follow Elliott waves. But I still think this wave 5, this larger wave 5, is going to end up going higher. But anyway, as far as the euro pound, what's your view on?
Well, I think we were discussing offline. We were just amazed how retail traders have been persistently short of euro sterling, and then after Mr. Broadbent's comments yesterday, well, lack of comments, that he didn't want to talk about how he's going to vote at the next meeting. There seems to be a massive split at the Bank of England regarding interest rates. Euro sterling shot through 89 pence, and it's broken all the chart levels. So it'll be interesting to see. Are we going to head for parity against the euro? It's all that's back up again.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because if we go to the next slide, I think we're going to talk about the euro on the next one.
Yeah.
So here's one thing that I'm going to talk about in the next segment with you, Zach, which is what the insiders, what the smart money is doing right now with the euro currency. The recent Commitment of Traders report that came out, the CO2 report, shows that insiders or commercial hedgers are taking a record or very strong short position on the euro currency. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean the euro is going to crash immediately. Sometimes there's about a few weeks, sometimes months before, usually about a month or so, before the market catches up with what the smart money is doing. So I'm going to be selling the euro into resistance, and I have a chart on that, which I'll show you in the next segment. But I'll be wary of that long euro.
Okay, let's move along to the trade of the day on silver.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest news story right now on silver, and I put this chart. I think it's me and you, Zach, I think we have one thing in common. I think I'm right in saying that we are contrarians by nature. And when I see something like this plummeting like this, just going down, and here's an interesting thing. It's almost, this downward move from June is almost a symmetrical move from the drop we had from April to May, which is interesting. Now, we've come down to support, as you can see there, Zach. So we've come down to the December lows, which on silver is 15.7. Here's the thing. We're coming also against time resistance, which that the indicator, one of my own indicators at the bottom of the chart. So for folks who are considering going long on silver, be careful, but keep an eye on 15.7 and $16, because if we get a close, if we get a close above that resistance level, which is now 16 level on silver, I'll be looking to get long here. Or if you're more aggressive, you could get long at a close above the daily 8 EMA. If you look at this chart, every time the price has dropped and then closed above the daily 8 exponential moving average, the red line you see on the chart there, that's usually a good reversal signal, a good trigger to go long with a small position size. And I'm looking for that to actually be a corrective move, a corrective bounce. I'm looking for a bounce from here on silver. What about yourself, Zach, on this one?
Well, I was looking at the weekly chart of silver, where there's a dead cross between the 50-week and 200-week moving averages. I'm not quite sure whether I would be rushing to go in, but I'd probably prefer really with silver to be late, rather than, because this feels like to me like a bit like catching a falling knife situation.
I see your point. I mean, I see two paths with silver. Either we're going to bounce strongly from here, as I've shown on the ABC move, or we're going to do another retest. That's quite likely to another retest, and I will likely form a wave 5 before we could rally from there.
Okay, let's move along to the broker recommendations, which center around Pearson, which yesterday sold 22% stake in Penguin Random House. So definitely in focus. Market's still really not sure about what the strategy is there. The company's hurting in terms of the US education side. Those educational books, which is not quite, which were great in the 20th century, not quite so fashionable now, let's say. And there's also the air of the company selling the family silver in order to stay afloat. So that is the issue there. Deutsche Bank going for a hold and a £6 target there maintained. Next up, we've got our core number, which I eventually guessed correctly, which is the current...
the number of people who have moved to Canada because of Trump.
Exactly, that type of thing, yes, exactly. That also coincides with the UK unemployment level, which is, or UK unemployment number, which is basically back to the same level as it was in 1975. time I
1975.
remember it well. It's a good year.
Really?
Yes, exactly.
2 years before I was born, but
Yes, and I actually remember. I think I remember the first time unemployment went above a million people, which was like it was horror in the
Right.
country. You know.
Yeah, from what I've heard, the late 70s was a pretty bad time for the UK. I remember 79 being the
Winter
year-
discontent.
Winter discontent, when rubbish was left all over the roads unpicked or something.
Now every winter is well. So if you're on
Every
okay, let's move along. Economic calendar. Fed's Yellen testifies, so that's clearly the highlight of the day
Right.
as far as the market's concerned. And then just below that, in terms of importance, the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision. We'll see how they manage all that.
Right.
Okay, well, that's the end of the Core Finance show for today. Thank you to Alessio Rastani from leadingtrader.com for joining us today.
Thank you.